Hello everybody, I am Jarrett Ross, the GeneaVlogger, and welcome back to another Professional Genealogist Reacts. On today's video, I will be reacting to Ancestry DNA test results with my mom by Uberhaxernova. Now, I actually thought I had seen his DNA results before because I had seen the cow chop results. I had read that he was part of that channel, but then I later found out that I guess he was part of that channel, but he wasn't involved in that video, and I guess he left Cow Chop, or I don't know. I don't really follow along with, that kind of group of content creators, so, I just kind of know what I've read up on, and I've heard his name. I figure let's go ahead and watch his actual DNA test results. I have no idea what to expect. I don't know what his ancestral background is. I have seen a few photos of him, but the photos that I've seen, he looks kind of racially ambiguous. So I'm not really going to say too much else, but before we do jump into the video, please be sure to give this a thumbs up. That really does help me out. Also, be sure to subscribe and click that bell for notifications on future videos. With all that fun stuff said, let's go ahead and jump into the video.
All right, hello. Welcome. Finally, the moment has arrived. Everybody's been waiting for my DNA ancestry results. We got both results in. I'm going to take a look at them and see.
So you took two tests.
I'm just going to see where I come from, And then I'm going to have to give a call to my mother. I could already see that something seems to be up here. What's going on here? This is my DNA story. Okay. 27% Great Britain?
He looks like he's got a pretty good mix. From all the different colors.
What this is all about.
15 other regions.
It's already a little jarring, Whoa, wait, what the fuck?
Okay, wow, that is a major mix.
Puerto Ricans. Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Okay.
So okay, this makes sense.
But what's
So the mixture makes sense if they're identifying him along with the community. They're calling it migrations here. This is from 2018, so I think this is before they started to do genetic communities. And I think they just called him migration. So they're identifying that he comes from Puerto Rican migration, and then there's a connection to Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana settlers. And then he has a pretty mixed ancestry just on the DNA. I mean, a huge chunk of European, but then a big chunk of Native American, a big chunk of Benin and Togo, which is African. So and then more European. So that's pretty interesting. Let's continue. Let's see what he has to say, because he didn't give us any sort of idea of what he would be expecting or what he does know about his ancestry.
What's going on here, though? England, Scotland, Wales. I guess Pennsylvania, right? But but I thought I was more. It's a little. So there is some Spain, Portugal in me. There is some Latin in there. It's detecting some, but not as much as what I thought. 18%. This is my breakdown. Got some Native American, some Togo, Benin. What is that? What is that? Dude, I fucking spit in a tube just for this. This is what I spit in a tube for.
What's he expecting?
Wait a minute.
DNA, yes!
I could have some cousins in here.
All right, going to DNA matches. I love that.
Fourth cousins are closer.
Okay. Oh, well, his dad's in there, and then we have a second cousin.
Possible range. Parent. Wait a minute. JRW. Parent. Wait a minute. Those are my initials. Relationship Wait, what the fuck is what? That's not real, dude. There's no way. Who the fuck is this? It's saying it's my dad. Look, you can't tell me that somebody has an extremely high chance of being my father. And then
Did he just take the ancestry test twice? Like, he bought two of them? Does he know his father? And maybe did his dad take the test? Or I guess his dad probably wouldn't have the same initials. So I don't know. Unfortunately, the way he's he hasn't given us any background. This video seems like it's just for his fan base, and if you don't know anything about him, you're going to be confused like I am. So maybe, hopefully he explains what, you know.
Let me discover how we're connected unless I pay like $45. You can't do that. All right, so 23andMe has a...
Well, that was very disappointing, his ancestry overview. It's not going to just match you to someone random. There's obviously, he's either taken the test or his dad's taken the test. The one thing, going back, I will say, look at the dates. Remember, since 2014, last logged in May 15, 2016. He's doing this in 2018. So I bet you anything that he took the test before and he just completely forgot. And so it's matching him to him because it's, you know, it's detecting that they're matching all the way across on all their chromosomes, which is what you would expect with a parent or child relationship, or a twin relationship. Although I don't know if Ancestry identifies twins, or even at least back then if they identified twins. So that could be what it is. And for anyone saying, well, you know, if he's matching across everything, then that would be more than a parent because you only get 50% of your DNA from a parent. Well, the thing is that for every chromosome, it's a pair of chromosomes. So chromosome 1 side of it is your mom, the other side is your dad. So if you're matching all across one side, then that's how they define it, is just it's matched across one side. They don't split it up where they're like, you know, oh, you're only matching across the chromosome on one side, but not the other. GEDmatch will tell you that. I don't think any of the DNA, I don't think Ancestry, well, Ancestry doesn't have a chromosome browser, so you wouldn't even be able to tell. But I don't think any of the other ones do that except 23andMe does that for their chromosome browser when you're looking at the admixtures. But yeah, I think that's what's going on. He must have taken the test, or what's a common one, someone in his family wanted him to take a DNA test, had him do it, he didn't remember it, and then, you know, that's what's going on, or I don't know. I bet you anything that's his own test.
23andMe has a little bit more information here. It looks like I've got traits, I've got the ancestry, we got like genetic health risks. I did everything here. I'm 67% European.
I mean, that's pretty close. The only major difference, it seems here, at least on this broader level, is that it's including that Middle Eastern, North African, although technically that could be, 23andMe could be reading what was Iberian in Ancestry. Some of that is coming up as Middle Eastern, North African, which definitely makes sense, especially when you consider the connection between a lot of North African communities and Spain and Portugal. So that's probably what's going on. Hopefully he'll look at, well, I'm sure he'll look at the bigger breakdown.
Sub-Saharan African, 14.9.
So just a little bit more than what Ancestry detected.
This seemingly goes a little bit against, don't it? Where's the African come in at? Oh, shit. What the fuck?
Okay.
What the fuck?
He seems to be so absolutely confused by all of this, and it would make a lot more sense for the viewer if we had an idea of what he was expecting. But just from the breakdown, what I can tell you, he's got 14.9% sub-Saharan African here. He had 11 point something percent in the last, in Ancestry, which specifically said Benin and Togo. So that would be equivalent of a great grandparent, assuming all of that is coming from one ancestor. Now, we can actually do something here with 23andMe because this is the chromosome browser that I was talking about. So if you see how there's number 1 and then there's two different lines of color, and each line, one line is from his mom and one line is from his dad. Now, they can't determine necessarily which one's from his mom or which one's from his dad unless his dad or his mom were to test, and then he can do what's known as phasing, which 23andMe has a phasing tool. But until then, so like with number 1, you can't be sure if the one on top is your mom or the one on bottom is your dad, and you know it's not going to continue that same way. So you just kind of have to guess. But with the colors of the West African and Sub-Saharan African, it's kind of that red magenta look. And if you look, you'll see that it's on both chromosomes. So for chromosome number 1, we see red and magenta on both sides. So what that's telling me, that the African ancestry is coming from both sides of his family, and so it's going to be more distant than a great grandparent. If recombination in DNA was perfect, you'd be getting 12.5% of your DNA from each one of your great grandparents. Well, being that we know that it's coming from both sides, that, it's going to be much more distant than a great grandparent, and it could be, we're going to be trying to find one on both sides of his family if we were to be building out the family tree and looking for that exact ancestor. And then you can also see that the yellow, which I'm sure, if you scroll down, that's probably the Native American, that is also on both chromosomes, both sides. So when you look at multiple, so number 1, for sure, we see it on both sides. Then number 8, we see it on both sides pretty easily. I mean, most of them have it on both sides. There's a few, like 18, we see it only on one of the chromosomes. Or one of the pairs of the chromosomes. So that's telling me too that the Native American is also from both sides of his family. So both of those were about the same, about 11-ish, 12-ish%, that great grandparent distance. But we know for both of those, it's going to be more distant. And it's probably more of the story of people in Puerto Rico and how mixed they are. So he comes from, I'm guessing both of his parents are probably Puerto Rican. I could be wrong, but based on their mixture, that seems to be likely that, both his mom and his dad have African ancestry, European ancestry, and Native American ancestry. So it's all kind of making sense to me. One thing I am noticing, though, that is very specific to just one side of the family is this lighter blue. So on number 12, chromosome 12, we see that on the top. And then on number 4, we see that on the top as well. So both of those chromosomes, it's only on one pair of that chromosome. And they're both on the top, which doesn't really actually say anything. Like you can't say, all the chromosomes that are on the top, the top pair is the mom and the bottom pair is the dad. Like I said, they can't tell that. So, number 1, it might be the mom on top and the dad on the bottom. And number 2, it might be the other way around. But back to that light blue, it looks like that's French and German. So what that's telling me is that this 4.5% French and German is probably coming from one side of his family. And at 4.5%, that's going to be the equivalent of about a second great grandparent or a third great grandparent. So if he were able to trace his family tree back to his second or third great grandparents, he would probably be able to find in a French-German ancestor. Of course, French and German is a very broad category because there are so many populations in Europe that kind of fall into that. There's a lot of possibilities if you're looking at it at a country level, but from a regional level, it's kind of, I guess you could say, Central Europe. All right, let's see what he has to say.
This is my chromosome painting. I could get this framed. It's so beautiful. 67%, dude. I have 5% of me that's unassigned. How does 5% of me just go untested?
It's not untested. It's not untested. When it's unassigned, it means that it's so ambiguous. They can't confidently put it towards anything. So usually they're fairly confident on a continental level. And then it's when you break it down further that it becomes much harder to understand. But if they're doing unassigned, then that could be a pileup region, which is basically an area on the DNA where it just seems like everybody, no matter what your population group, is matching. And then, of course, these tests are looking at hundreds of thousands of positions in the genome. So I think it's usually around 600 to 700,000 SNPs is what they're called, single nucleotide polymorphism. So it's just a fancy word for the kind of DNA mutation that takes place. And, you know, if you're looking at 600, 700,000 and you have a 1% margin of error, well, that means that you have 6,000 or 7,000 different SNPs that are being read incorrectly, or sometimes there are misreads where they, you know, it's too ambiguous for them to tell what's the nucleotide at that spot. And so that could be where some of the unassigned is coming from too, is just because of the difficulty in reading it, that, you know, and the errors that they were like, we can't assign any of this. So it's not uncommon to get unassigned.
Health risks. Oh, wait. Oh, you do not have the variant they tested. Oh, thank God. Whew, that was okay. Well, all right. Let's see what my mother says about these results.
Hopefully his mom can give a little bit of context in this, because that's the biggest thing we're lacking in this video, is context of what he's actually expecting, because he didn't tell us anything about his ancestry. He didn't tell us anything about his background. It's kind of just like either assumed, or he just didn't think to tell it, or maybe both. You know, so hopefully she gives some context, like, well, yeah, your father and I are both Puerto Rican, and that's pretty typical of Puerto Ricans to have African ancestry and Native American ancestry. But I don't know, let's see.
Hi, Mother. I finally got a chance to look over my DNA test.
Okay.
She sounds nervous.
Why are you laughing already?
Because from the sound of your voice, I don't know what you found out. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
All right. Well, look, for the first
Tell
DNA
us your
test,
ancestry.
This was like
Give us
kind of
context.
more of a breakdown of everything. This one says that I am 67% European.
How the fuck?
It also says I'm 14.9% sub-Saharan Saharan African. Or Saharan. I don't know how to pronounce it. Out of that 14.9%, 12.2% of that is West African.
Well, I'm getting the feeling we're not getting any context from Mom. We're just getting a similar reaction like he had, just like, what? This doesn't make sense to what I know.
You're being rude.
That's on your dad's side.
I have 11.3% East Asian and Native American.
Which is probably all Native
I told
American.
you you were Asian.
You told me I was Asian. Well,
I told you you were adopted. I'm sorry. I told you that you were adopted, not Asian.
there's also 5.4% that's just unassigned. There's 5% of me that they don't even know where it came from. It has the Spain and Portugal and like the Latin like background as well. That came first.
But what is your expected ancestry? What do you know about your ancestry?
That's fucking hilarious. Well, I'm gonna tell you what's not hilarious, Mother. You
This
think that
video.
these things are a joke?
They are too.
There's an
Man.
option on here, right? There's an option on here to like build a family tree or something like that. Like when you go on here,
Yeah,
it
that's-
shows you who could possibly be like cousins and 1,000th cousin and shit like that. It gives you DNA matches of random fucking people. When I view my DNA matches, there is one thing on here that sticks out, Mother. The top person under my DNA that I have some kind of relationship with, their username is JRW. Can you guess? It says, in terms of relationship, it says this person is my father.
Well, look into it and see what happens.
I can't look into it. They want $45 for me to look into it.
See?
So you're saying for sure
No.
I shouldn't think that this person is my father. You think I should just okay. It has that I could send a message to them.
How funny would it be? He sends a message to himself, then he gets an email that says, hey, you got a message from yourself. Because it's probably him.
All right. Subject. Hey, Dad.
Telling you a bunch of lies.
Hey, Dad. Message. Hi. I'm your son.
Your lost son.
Okay, well, that was, I don't know what to call that. That was a massive disappointment. There was absolutely no context, although I will say, I see that he has a video that says telling my mom I'm taking the Ancestry DNA test, so maybe does he give the context there? Only two things that are going on with that match that's his father. One, he took the DNA test before and just didn't remember, and Ancestry's system isn't set up to identify that, you know, this looks like it's either a twin or yourself. Instead, it just says your father or a son. The other option is that he does have a father that he doesn't know about who has the same initials as him, who is out there. From the stuff we did get, I mean, it seems like he's probably Puerto Rican, especially because Ancestry was picking up on that migration. So, you know, he didn't tell us if he is Puerto Rican, if he would expect Puerto Rican, but if he were Puerto Rican through both his mom and both his dad, the breakdown makes sense. The European makes sense. The African makes sense. The Native American makes sense. You know, even that North African Middle Eastern makes sense because he does have, you know, Spain and Portugal. He has that Iberian. It is a shame, especially of all the videos to watch where they, you know, finally go into the DNA matches. That was the whole focus of the DNA matches, was the one match that was probably him. But we did see that there was that seemingly about second cousin on there, so I wonder if he recognized who that person was. I'll probably end up watching this telling my mom I'm taking the Ancestry DNA test, just clicking through it just to kind of see, did he talk about it? In fact, you know what? We're going to go ahead and do that. This video is going to be a little bit longer. I just want to see. I want to click through it.
Give you the opportunity to come clean with anything that you may not
Please,
have told me.
context. Please tell us context.
You know, like, just in case, you know, like, I just want to make sure that everything up to this point has been truth. No, I mean, like, I'm just saying. No.
Oh, it's all the same
Punk hasn't been on in 2 different tests and says that I'm not actually, you know, Puerto Rican in any way.
He is Puerto Rican. Okay, we finally got it. Context. Thank you. Okay, so he is Puerto Rican. It all makes sense. That's all I wanted to hear. Yeah, so really didn't give much more context, but did confirm that he was expecting Puerto Rican. So it all makes sense. Very disappointing video. Could have been a lot better, I think. It's definitely... This was something that was directed just directly at his fans who are into him. I mean, as a genealogist trying to analyze him in a way like, you know, well, if you're trying to build your family tree and you want to find this or that, like, this was not a very good video for that. Well, thank you so much for checking out this video. I do hope that you did enjoy the reaction. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You can also click right about here if you'd like to subscribe. It is completely free to do so. And you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at GeneaVlogger. I'm the GeneaVlogger. See you in my next video.